Welcome back, guys, to another episode of Benny and the Guest. With you, as always, is me, Ben. I'm joined today by a young gentleman I actually just met a couple days ago, Jeremy Cross. Jeremy, first of all, thank you for coming on to the pod.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Jeremy just recently released a book, and I don't want to give too much away about it. He's kind of going to tell us about it, but he kind of has an interesting life story, and I just wanted to get it out there and kind of wanted to hear. Everybody has these, life stories, but some of these make big impacts for a lot of people, and I think Jeremy's is going to do that. So, Jeremy, if you could just take it away for us, wherever you want to start, whatever you want to give to us, I'm all ears.
Sure, thank you. So my name is Jeremy Cross. I'm 31. I'm from Langley. About 7 years ago, I moved downtown Vancouver. I was in a relationship. I didn't really come from my family. I come from a good family, lots of love. I had a couple, um, things growing up. As far as background goes, in my book, I go into full detail. I moved downtown because I wanted to get into the big city, a lot of more color, culture, acceptance, things like that. When I was in high school, I experimented, had girlfriends, and I was hiding my sexuality for quite some time. I didn't come out till I was 19. I have a stepdad that was not the greatest to me. My mom, who I adore, went through a rough divorce, and I was there ringside helping her out and helping the family out. Then I got into a relationship. I moved downtown, and so he was in AA and I went as a supporter for a year and a half. There was no drugs, no alcohol. We lived together, joint accounts. I worked as chief of operations at Talius. It's a roll shutter and blinds place. He was a contractor downtown, east side, west side. He did different apartments, redos and stuff like that. Well, our relationship started to fall apart when he wanted an open relationship, which was rough for me, but I stayed. He relapsed to crystal meth. I didn't know that that was a DOC of his. So just given the timing and where we were in a relationship, and having someone you love say, it's okay, you can do it with me, like let's do it together. In a normal situation, perhaps obviously someone that you love brings you drugs, you'd be like, yeah, no, not happening. But I just wasn't in the mind space and my heart was broken. And as soon as crystal meth got into our lives, my life especially, things started to decline. Jobs were lost, and we started escorting, selling our bodies for money and drugs.
Can I
Became homeless.
can I jump in there real quick?
Yeah.
There was a lot of information there. Number one, so I'll hit the points. You said your stepdad, it wasn't great, your mom going through the divorce and all that. All that stuff at the beginning, would you say that eventually made you maybe susceptible and hindered growth, or do you think that was just kind of a blip on coming into the rest of your life? Because that's a lot to deal with as a teenager.
I think it started teaching me how to suppress trauma. And that really played a role because it was learned behavior and not having anyone to turn to given the topics and conversations, especially obviously having a stepfather in under your roof. Like I'd go to school and get bullied and it was horrible. Get spat on in the hallways. I would pretend to get math detention so that I could be protected, and then I'd come home and I wouldn't be protected because I'd hid it from my mother for.
That I'm truly sorry for that. I like that you explained it that way. I think that does a lot of people. They go through all that and it sets you up for, like you said. And then the next point I think was with your boyfriend. You go through this, you commit to this living healthy thing with him, and it dropped off into this whole other life of dealing with, he does open relationship, he says drugs. Was that a slow decline, you think, or was it a fast jolt and it all happened so quick you didn't know what was going on, or what
It
exactly
was
was
it
that?
was really fast. Yeah, it was a fast jolt. It was like within a month when he wanted an open relationship. I knew, like, we were engaged before that for a year and a half monogamously. I knew I wasn't going to stay, but I've always wanted to move downtown. So I knew in the back of my head it wasn't going to be somebody I was going to be with, but being involved in something I knew wasn't authentic. And I felt like I was betraying myself. It it was a slow, it was a fast decay, And then as soon as it's like as soon as drugs, especially crystal meth, became a part in escorting, which is selling your body, which is something I also don't believe in, sharing your body for currency or even just sharing your body unnaturally with people you're not attracted to, opened a whole other world that I was a fish out of water. I had no experience going into it, even knowing that people were capable of manipulation or gaslighting or being somebody's mark, having a certain predatorial type of person really target you because of your compassion or empathy. It just didn't come up in my world and my family life. It's not something I was raised, and I don't blame my parents for this, is because we never had deception in our world. So when I moved to the city, that's one of the main messages in my book that I wanted to really say to people, to have your boundaries and your guards up, because there's people out there that will use your heart as a weapon. And I was naive and I was ill-equipped and uneducated for that life.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone's equipped, from what you've told so far. That is a lot to go through in such a short amount of time. Do between the meth you talked about, and then you're selling your body and stuff, could you see at that moment that you were in peril? Did you know you needed help, or how did you, in those moments, are you foggy and it never really matters, or is it like in the back of your head something's going on but you just don't want to deal with it?
Well, I mean, yeah, I've seen all this high school specials. I never wanted to ever be the person that would smoke crystal meth or be with somebody who does crystal meth.
Yeah, nobody. Yeah,
I knew that something was wrong. Obviously, losing your jobs was big. We both lost our jobs. But I think because I was in such a state that I was willing to do anything to get his attention, because I felt unwanted, unworthy, not enough. He was choosing to want other people. That hit my self-worth. So just the timing of everything and where I was emotionally and mentally, I was very susceptible to him coming and being like, let's do this together. And then, of course, the attention when you're on crystal meth, especially with a partner, it's like ecstasy, the connection, the romance, if you will, if you're doing it together. I would have done anything in that moment, especially because I was so in love. And I mistaked that as him wanting to be with only me, instead of it was just him being on the drug. And like I said, everything, we had to move out of there. We started staying at some of our clients, our richer clients' house, which led to, awful things happening. Like the guy that we were staying with, who was a really successful dentist on Canby Street, and he had a mental break, and he took a knife to the room we were staying in, trying to get in and attack my partner and it was scary because he was having like a psychotic break. He was up for too many days, and the police were called. There's blood everywhere. He was found on the 5th floor, even though we were in the penthouse. And you have to have a key card to even get into each floor. So we still have no idea how he even got there. But then when we went to the hospital and tried to help him out because we were so shocked, he paid off the police with an envelope full of money, and we were told that we had to leave. And like we had no idea what we were dealing with. And then from there, it just declined because he was somebody that started to deteriorate. Like he was not a functioning addict. He couldn't and when you're escorting, it's based on appearance. So when he wasn't something that people wanted to actually pay for, it was only me. So then I ended up doing solo things and he was still collecting the money. And so that was hard. I felt like I was getting pimped out. And then when I started to have more strength and I started to get fed up, I went into the world by myself, moved out. And then I was doing fine in my head, I was doing fine, but I knew this still wasn't a life that I actually agree with. But I was making a lot of money, $5,000 saved in my safe. But then with the nice things, $3,000 car that was paid off, I had prior. And I didn't know that made me a mark for other people. And I ended up getting involved with a notorious fraudster downtown who spent 1.5 years stealing my identity while we were dating, attacked my bank accounts, my bureau, overdosed me on fentanyl to get me to start spending the money I had saved in my safe for his DOC. And again, as soon as fentanyl came in, it trumped crystal meth like times 10. There was no going back. As soon as you're on fentanyl, the day you're down sick, the next day you want to spend money on it.
That is every step has seemed like it keeps progressing and keeps progressing. You think, and then that sucks because you hit a point where you thought you were doing a little better, and then it just got way worse. So
way worse. Yeah.
It was the fentanyl thing, which is a scary thing. I know you're up in Canada, but even in America, I'm pretty sure it's global at this point. It's a scary thing going on. Were you aware of that at the time of how dangerous it was, or did you just really not care at that point because it's the fix at that point?
My experience with fentanyl was extremely negative to start because when he would do fentanyl, I didn't know what he was doing, but I knew he was a monster when he would do it. He would inject it, and my keys would get stolen, my wallet would be gone. He was nasty, he was mean, he would disappear for days. I had no idea what was going on. I was devastated. So, and I could tell, like, their fentanyl wasn't even allowed in my apartment. Like I said, you weren't allowed to use it. It's not welcome here. You can't bring it in. Once I started to realize, like, I had people around Vancouver kind of, I was blind, right? Like, I didn't come from Vancouver, so I didn't know he had a decade-long history there, and everybody knows everybody, but I didn't know anybody, and I was so tangled in his gaslighting web that I was isolated, and I wasn't allowed to talk to anybody or do anything. It was extremely malicious. He was the worst as far as people go that came into my life. I know I'm ultimately responsible for my actions, but I have to understand the part that the people played. That's in my book. I go through chronologically my time. As you said, it progressed, which really truly was what my life was like there. It just got worse and worse. And then when he got me on fentanyl, I I just knew it was I knew it was lethal because he's overdosed before. I didn't know what fentanyl was though. Like I didn't know what I just knew it was worse than crystal meth. Like on the street you either get side or down. Those are the street terms for it. Side is crystal meth here and down is fentanyl. So when we would go, like we would use crystal meth together, he would say, "Can I get some side?" And then he would whisper some down when I wasn't listening, and I didn't really know what he was asking for, but it was quite clear that it was a different drug. And then when he overdosed me and I woke up in the emergency room, I just had died. I knew exactly what happened. I knew that because we were fighting about, some couple $1,000s here and there were going missing from my safe. And I'd call my mom and I'm like, "Mom, like there's money, there's thousands of dollars missing." And she'd be like, "Son, well, who's the only one that has access to your safe? You have cameras, you have TELUS alarm system. Like you can't be this blind." And then, so I knew exactly the minute I woke up, I knew exactly what was going on.
That's so. Two questions. One, you said you called your mom, explain this stuff. Did you maintain a relationship with your family through all this, or was it kind of hit and miss, or how'd that work out?
At the beginning, when I like kind of had my life together for the first couple years, when I had money and I was just doing crystal meth, I would call my mom. Me and her best friends, especially prior to moving, we were very close. But more times, I would call her. I knew what I was telling her was killing her because it got more violent. It got scarier. And I knew, like, I know she would never ever miss the call, but I knew I was doing more damage. So I actually shielded my family a lot from what was going on. I never went home. I was uncontactable at months at a time. At the beginning, though, I had a phone at least, and I had an apartment, so I was safe. But when I became homeless, having a phone is not reality. You can't keep anything on you on the streets. It's stolen instantaneously. The minute you look away, the minute you fall asleep, you wake up, everything's gone. It's impossible to maintain communication when you're on the street with somebody.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. I mean, there ain't much more to it than that. That's a hard life once you get out there because there ain't nothing available to you.
Yeah,
What?
it's pretty vicious.
Yeah, I mean, there's no sugarcoating it. It's kind of gone. And then my other question was for the overdose when that happened. Can you kind of describe that experience? Because I know that's a near death. That's something crazy. Do you remember a lot about it, or was it kind of just I'm in, I'm out, and then it was like I almost fucking died, or was it more nuanced than that?
Throughout the 7 years, I actually overdosed 7 times altogether. This time, like when you would shoot crystal meth, I didn't shoot it often. I didn't ever shoot down or sorry, fentanyl either. I didn't like the feeling it gave me. I only was a smoker. But yeah, you're kind of the minute they say not to get too graphic, but the needle is in you kind of thing, and you're pushing it in. And if you have down in there and you do too much, you're out cold, and you just wake up and you have no idea where you are. It's a blink of time. So when you wake up in the emergency room, there's doctors all around you, running around you. You know exactly what's happened. Other times on the street, same thing. You realize your bag is gone. It's just a blip of time. You wait. It's like you passed out and you wake up, kind of thing.
Wow. And you said 7 times. So you're lucky to be here. Even that's amazing. Like I'm thankful that you made it through all that. What
Yeah, I got to
so
be here for a reason.
yeah, exactly. You get so you get through all that. Is this the so where are you at from there? You guys are kind of doing that. You're supplying everything. You're still, in this relationship. What transpires from there?
So that was about me and him. The second person was about a year. I started to come back. He started doing fraud on me, frauded my bureau. My bank accounts were compromised. He started ordering other people's credit cards to my address. The minute I caught him cheating a couple times. Like he would disappear and saying he's going to go get methadone. I'd call and he'd be gone for a while. And I would call his phone. He wouldn't answer. I'd call the methadone clinic. They'd say they didn't see him. So then I'd call him again. He's like, "Oh, I didn't go to the clinic. I went to my actual doctor." And I was like, "Okay." So I called his actual doctor after I got the phone. His doctor said I haven't seen him in 5 months. So I just waited on the front step. I knew exactly what was going on. And the minute he'd walked up to my apartment, I just said, "Give me your phone." And he's like, "What do you mean?" And I was like, "Just give me your phone. Let me see your phone. Don't touch it. Let me see your phone." Like that was kind of my point of view with fidelity, or when I'm in a relationship, feel as though I always had an understanding with whoever I dated, men or women, we should have enough trust in each other at the beginning, especially if there's insecurities in a relationship. You can look at my phone at any time. If you want to look at it, well, if you're insecure, you're questionable, you're wondering what I'm doing, I'm never going to be hiding anything. We'll stop what we're doing. You can give me your phone. I'll give you my phone. We'll stop what we're doing and we'll both look. So nothing can get changed. There should be no issue with that. If someone has a problem, I don't care what, well, people will be like, well, it's their privacy. It's none of your business. It's their phone. I call bullshit, especially at the very beginning. If you're just learning each other and there's insecurities, I think that's how you build a healthy relationship. And I always said that to him. So when he wouldn't let me see his phone, I knew exactly what was going on. He knew exactly what was going on too. But he fought me on it, and then finally he gave it to me. I looked on Grindr, and sure enough, he made plans with somebody, and he went and just had sex with someone. So, and that was actually, he didn't let me go to my family's Christmas. So this was on the 26th. The next day, I stayed home devastated, and my family was upset, and he cheated on me the next day. So that was unfortunate. And then in my wardrobe, I had a nice wardrobe. I had like $150,000 wardrobe, like Michael Kors designer stuff. Slowly, all that went missing. He was selling that. My car kept getting missing. He'd throw down the keys, and somebody would come and use my Kia Optima. It was push to start, so they just had to have the key fob in the car, start it, and then they'd throw up the key back and put it on the hanger. So it was just it was a life I still didn't, I was uneducated in. I had no idea what was going on around me. And we cracked when I guess, he did a score with some guys, and this is also in my book, and I guess he didn't pay the guys the amount of money, or he didn't split it properly, so these guys figured I was the only thing that he had that was valuable, bought and paid for, so they showed up at my house and actually raped me, and then then he came over after and acted like nothing was wrong, and that was the big pivotal moment that I knew that I was in something much bigger and darker. And then I moved out of there. I tried to escape him, but he followed to the next place, got evicted from there, ended up on the streets. He stole my car and hit an oncoming woman after that, and then fled the scene. I went to go pick up my car. They told me that the owner of the car had come and picked it up, and I said, "What are you talking about? It's my car." Apparently, he went in a couple months and got an equity loan for $15,000 on the equity of my vehicle. And because he defaulted on the payments, apparently my car was signed over as collateral. So I just got stripped of everything I had, like throughout the 2 years. Anytime I became difficult, he threatened to fraud my mom or my dad. So it was a nightmare. And then I ended up on the streets after that.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I'm sorry about that. The sexual assault, that is, I'm in the militaries, and it happens way too often with us. So I'm terribly sorry for that, because I know the effect it has on people, and it's devastating and it's life changing, and you're never really the same after that. So I'm terribly, terribly sorry for that. Um, that whole escalation of that, I mean, that is a huge transpiring of events in your life. And then out of all of that, once you get done with this chaos, you're still homeless. So how did you make it through all that with a sane mind still? Because a lot of people would give up at that point. What did you do to get through that? And just take us through after you went homeless, like you said. What'd you do to get through those steps? Because obviously there is a bright side here, folks. Like, we're talking to him now. I want to hear what went on.
Yeah, then as soon as that era happened, the street era came in, and that was a whole other host of hell. That was even worse because you're exposed to obviously the elements and people out there. There's a lot of death, crime, corruption. Started getting involved with the VPD. I had to learn how to do fraud to protect myself, and I started doing fraud because I couldn't escort anymore because I was on the street. So I had to start getting involved with other people and doing crime. Started to go through the system. I was in and out of jail for probably since 2021. My last arrest was January this year, 17th, and I was released May 28th. And for me, the bright side, like don't get me wrong, I was in a state of hopelessness. I was done. I was afraid. I was lost. I accepted the fact that I was going to die as a junkie, 100%. I didn't think I'd ever get out alive. I remember these awful things would happen that I describe in my book, and I remember thinking, if I ever get out of this thing alive, I'm going to write about this one day, and that kind of stuck with me. And each time I was arrested, my mom would come in and I would see kind of lines begin to get on her face and aging. And when you're on the street, you have no concept of time or date. You're kind of in this like vortex as a warp area. So when I get into jail, I'd have a reality check. She'd come in and I'd see that my brothers have graduated or time had been going on around me. And that scared me because I was doing Bible studies with men that were 40 or 50 or 60 years old in jail that were a revolving door. And it clicked the final time. I'm like, that's going to be me. Like I'm going to give my entire life to fentanyl in this world. And there's no other climax. Like well, if I just go back out this time and I do it this time, or if I don't involve myself with these people, there's no other way. You're going to end up back in jail or you're going to be dead. There's no other climax. There's no other way to do it. And that was a big thought for me too. Like I always knew I'm not supposed to be here.
Yeah. And I'm glad you were able to at least push through all that, because most people wouldn't, honestly. Most people in that situation, they're either going to find a way to get rid of themselves or, like you said, I'm going to die a junkie. So
I'm grateful for my family. Like,
yeah.
Don't get me wrong, I had good support. My mom has always stuck by me. She never missed a call, even though it was killing her. And I have a dad and a stepmom, and I have brothers and other siblings too. So, I mean, they always were rooting for me.
That's great, because I'm a big family guy myself. I think family is like true. Like if you have a strong one or like bonds like that, they'll get you through whatever that you need to, regardless of how awful it is. They're the ones that support you. So that's awesome.
Yeah, but I wanted to make sure, like in my book, because there's a lot of people out there that I've met that don't have family. So they think recovery is not possible. They don't have the support that I had. And on that note, I'll say, there's so many. I mean, we need more. I've now just been certified. I'm a certified peer worker now to work with other addicts, which was important for me because I'm on disability because of my addiction, anxiety, depression. While I was down there, I applied for it. And there is a lot of counselors and support. But when people didn't have lived experience or weren't addicts, I didn't give them the time of day. They couldn't possibly understand me. So I think it's really imperative, the peer support work, but we need a better system. Especially in BC, our government, our system for recovery and detox is impossible. It's not set up for success for the demographic of addicts. There's no proper wing or even group for addicts. They try to clunk them in with mental health and hospital or medical. That doesn't work for a whole bunch of reasons. Then they try to lump them with the judicial, like the Department of Justice. That doesn't really work. Luckily, jail was my salvation because it was the only time I was forced into sobriety. But they even they give you methadone or other legal drugs, which it's, again, the system they have set up in jail. I chose to microdose off of methadone while I was in jail because I said to the doctor, when I walk out of here in 5 months, I want to be at zero. So there needs to be a better system, 100%.
Absolutely. I am happy that you said you're like you said peer counselor or peer
support worker. Yeah.
Peer support worker. That's great because they'll need people like you, to get through that. Our country as well. It's not addiction is not the greatest game, and most of the time it's covered with other drugs or not the right type of mental health support that they need. I 100% agree with you on that. Tell me about, if you could, the process for, you said you wanted to write that book. Well, what made you start writing that book? What was the process like? And then what do you got going on now? What's as far as like with the peer support and then this book, be coming out? What's the deal?
So when I was in jail, my sister's actually Jamie Sutherland. She's a spiritual healer, and she said me and her were writing back and forth, which was really therapeutic for me. It was her suggestion that said, "Why don't you just start writing? Ask the guards for a pen and paper and just start writing your whole story from start to finish in a chronological order." So I just started writing it while I was in jail. It kept me busy while doing the 12 steps and Bible studies. I'm not really religious, but I'm a firm believer of if something has worked for other people, I want to learn, I want to know about it, I'm open to it. And the big book was really helpful. And I just started writing. I got out of jail and I continued the recovery part of it. I obviously digitalized it. I got my old history AP 12 teacher from DW Poppy Secondary, who's a retired superintendent of the Langley School Board, she offered to edit it for free, as well as one of my best friends, same thing. He also was a retired superintendent on the Vancouver Island, and he offered. So I had two editors that went through it with me. I designed the cover myself. The cover is actually of me during active addiction, which was controversial for me because somebody may look at the cover and go, that guy looks good, he's fit, it's attractive. But really, I was dying inside, and I hated my life. I hated myself. So that the cover in itself is a big deal for me. I used actually ChatGPT, artificial intelligence, all the different steps to make a book and self-publish a book because I didn't have any money, and I just followed what it told me to do. And since then I've made a website. I've been asked to go. I was just interviewed by Glacier Media. The woman Alana Kelly used to work for CBC News. She interviewed me and my story. She reached out to me. I've posted my book. It's on Amazon, Chapters Indigo, Barnes and Noble, Google, and Kobo. Those platforms are great. I get my Facebook is public too, and I have a question and answer on my website. I get contacted. That's what I've been doing with my time recently, just going on as many podcasts. Like I was saying to you prior, I just got contacted by Novus Entertainment, their Channel 4, and they want to do an interview December 17th with me on TV. So right now I'm just really doing my own PR, my own content. I'm spreading awareness. I want to get involved, obviously, with peer working, maybe people individually, doing maybe public speaking. I mean, I'm open to anything. I'd love to be a public figure if that helps. It means a lot to me when I have mothers from around the world that have sons that are in active addiction, or daughters, or have lost them in addiction, reach out to me saying they've read my book and they've gotten clarity or aware, they understand it more and they feel more at ease. That means the world to me because of what I put my mom through. This is kind of my way of giving back.
I think that's like the perfect thing, and the best outlet for you right now, is to give back like that. And I think that's you're gonna see that tenfold, man. That story speaks, I'm sure, to hundreds of people, if not thousands or millions. Okay. I'm so glad you wrote that to give your testament. I think people telling their story, that's the whole reason I started the podcast, is like, I just love hearing people's stories because it helps other people, and it's good to get that out there, like, just to motivate people for whatever reason. And the fact that you did all that yourself, I love that too, that you were just like, well, I'm going to make a book and I'm going to publish it. And you did it, and you're doing your PR and you're doing all the right things.
Thank you. Yeah, it means a lot that people are finding something in my words, in my writing, that's they're finding some resolution in things that I've written. And I thank you for saying. I do feel proud that I mean, when I was making the book, there was a lot of people contacting me trying to get me to pay them to do design or to create the book, or there's so many scams out there, and I just was like, you know what, I'm going to do this myself. And I wanted to show the resilience and the strength and to be hope for people that you can do this. Like, there's not much lower. This is even what we've talked about, is maybe I'm pretty desensitized to it because I was front row to it for so many years. But for normal people like you, it's so shocking, and that this is like the tip of the iceberg. So I do feel like it makes for a good story, which is why I did it for my own therapy too. I mean, I would suggest for anybody, getting help if you have trauma, like getting help by reaching out to a counselor or talking it out or writing it out. For me, I thought it would be destructive, but it was actually extremely therapeutic. It's something that I would recommend to anybody for sure.
Absolutely. I'll be sure. I'm gonna hop on and grab a copy. So you guys heard all the spots he's at. Jeremy Cross. Jeremy, can you say the name of the title of the book again, please?
Yeah, my book is Finding My Lost Life, The Fall to Addiction and Rise to Recovery. It's available at www.jeremycross.ca. On my website, you can see a bunch of information about me, the different platforms. There's direct book links that will take you right to the place of purchase. And also there's a question and answer. A couple of my media interviews are there as well.
Awesome, man. I can't tell you what a pleasure it was to have you on. This was one of the most exhilarating podcasts I've ever recorded. So thank you for your time, and I hope you keep continuing doing what you're doing.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thanks for listening, and check us out again. See ya.